Welcome, Legionnaires, to the Long Live the Legion podcast, where we talk about the Legion of Superheroes comic book team and break subjects down so that whether you're just out of Legion Academy or you're a longtime veteran, you get to know the team a little bit better. I'm your co-host, Jim.
And I'm your co-host, Jay.
And welcome to a very, very special episode. So what do we have? We're not even going to turn on the mission monitor board. We're just going to go into it. Jay, who do we have here?
We have a very, very special guest. He's returning to the podcast. He is group editor of all the Superman books, and most importantly to this podcast, the editor of the upcoming Legion of Superheroes book. We have Paul Kaminsky.
Hi. Hello. How are you guys doing?
Welcome back.
That was one of those moments where I was like, don't sound like a weirdo. And then I was like, hi.
On this podcast, we're all weirdos, so it's fine.
Yeah,
it's great to be.
I gave up I gave up trying to not sound like a weirdo a long time ago. I've just accepted it's like, we're all good. We're all good.
It is great to be. Yes, great
we are here to grill you as much as we can and to get as much information about the new Legion book. But we wanted to start with this. The last time we talked to you, you were telling us all about how you were just beginning or kind of in the middle of your Legion. I don't want to say Legion 101, but you were reading the books and trying to get a sense. So I wanted to ask, like, how's that going? How much have you kind of gotten through? What are things that maybe have like leapt off the page that have really grabbed your attention, or just any thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's really great to be back here. I do listen every episode. I love your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I find it educational. I learn a lot. This is one of those franchises, Legion, where, as I mentioned last time, it's really not in my bones like other franchises are. And so I had to jump aboard. And so actually this podcast, you put it right there up top. Like, this is whether you're a first-time Legionnaire, right? Like, this podcast actually does a wonderful job of showing that chronology and placing it within a context. And even when I don't agree with your assessments, I find them fascinating and interesting because ultimately, I really just desperately don't want to screw this up. I really have learned to love the Legion of Superheroes. Going through and reading it has become like a highlight of my day. Like, I genuinely love it. You can't see. People are listening to the podcast. I'm wearing my Ultra Boy shirt, but I'm also surrounded by my founder's toys, which I track down on eBay and stuff like that. And I found so much. This franchise felt like home to me because I'm already an X-Men fan and I'm already a Star Trek fan. And when a mommy franchise and a daddy franchise love each other very much, obviously it's a little bit different because it predates one of those, but both of those predates both of those.
Yeah, I was going to say, is the Legion the mummy or the daddy?
The chicken, egg, Legion.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's the Prody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot to love for me, and I've learned what I like. I've learned what I don't like. I've learned what I prefer and all that stuff. So yes, so when last we spoke, I had started with the Levitt stuff and had shifted into 5 years later at bouncing around. I've continued to bounce around. I prefer to read physical just for myself personally. So if I don't find it in a trade or a single issue, I haven't really read it yet. So it's been tough actually tracking those things down, because in some cases they're out of print. So I had to look for, especially those archive editions. And so those have been tough to track down, but I have one by one. I've amassed a little, it's a modest collection, guys, but I've been enjoying it and going through. And I think I've touched at this point on almost every era. My big blind spot is like the mid 70s or like the mid to late 70s.
That's where, because that's where some of the harder to find books are in some cases. But they've republished some of those in some of the Superboy and Legion hardbound volumes. But there's that gap around 74 to 76 where it's like, can't really find them. It's kind of hard.
Yeah. And then fortunately, Zap Goes the Legion came out. Now, for some reason, when that comp came in, it was before my Legion journey. And I was like, well, I'm going to put this in. I will never read this pile. Here we go. And now I'm like, oh, no.
I know. I've started referring to that one as like, if you're just getting in and you want to get that early Silver Age base knowledge in, I recommend that one because it has a good cross-section of a lot of good stuff. So.
To reiterate, I was a fool for doing that. So I went actually back in and started buying some of the single issues of those so that I could read them things. But yeah, I've really loved it. So yeah, my latest thing, I read through all the Bendis stuff recently. And that one was an interesting exploration because it's funny to see what the different writers who have taken on this franchise latch on to. In fact, I asked Mark Waid the other day about Reboot, and I was like, listen, your instinct, when you did Reboot the first time, you walked through the nativity scene, you know. And I said, but when I was reading it, I was surprised that you went through it so quickly, because my instinct on the book was like, we have to get to know the founders and then grow it out. Like for some reason, my attachment to Legion kind of starts with the founders and that original sort of nativity scene. And so I was wondering, I was like, Mark, well, why didn't you spend more time there? He said, I thought about it, but the book is called Legion of Superheroes. And it never even really occurred to me that the idea that there were so many was one of the appealing things to people. Because I thought about it more as like a detail than a feature. But I found it less like something you'd hang your hat on. And when you read the Bendis stuff, and I don't want to get into that too much, but I was like, oh, that's what he liked about this. I think he liked that there was a big team, which is not necessarily something I gravitate to. I think that's cool. It offers for variety of story, and especially with the Levitt stuff, when he's cycling through story the way he does, having the big team and featuring all those different characters. Yeah, there's a lot of advantage there. But I would, it's not something that I was naturally sort of drawn to. It's like with the X-Men. That's a huge, huge franchise with tons of characters. But I never think, oh, I like this because there's lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I thought that was cool. So going through the journey, seeing what the different writers and artists, I'm gesturing to my shelf where I keep all my Legion prizes, has been really cool and really educational, and kind of reinforced what I thought that I liked about it, which was this is the future where kids are play acting superheroes and are getting in over their heads. Like that's the thing that I like about this franchise. And then when you go from there, you go from there. But yeah, so that's been my journey.
It's a really interesting comment because, you made that exact comment, I think, last time you were here. I was doing some reading. There's this another book that you might be interested in. It's a self-publishing book. It's called Teenagers from the Future. Matt Fraction. He does the foreword, Barry Lyga does the afterword, and then all the rest of them in between are just a bunch of fans writing about the Legion, all the way from the Silver to the Three Boot. And one of the Three Boot writers talks about how in that story, it starts off kind of lighthearted, but it's funny. And I'm sure we'll get into this with the art that's been released. We see these pictures of Garth sitting there reading comic books in the dark, which is very much a Three Boot homage, because they're just sitting around their clubhouse and chilling and being very quippy when they battle the robots. But then when things really hit the fan, it gets dark, and it gets dark quick. And to your point of them being a little bit over their heads in problems, you know what I mean? That's when you kind of see what the hero is made of. And that essay kind of really helped me reorient my thinking about the Legion as a whole, as a concept.
I think that's really cool and insightful. Yeah, it was when I was listening to your episode when you talked about the announcement, you mentioned that you felt that was a Three Boot homage. While I understand what you mean, because I did read Three Boot stuff, it was the furthest thing from my mind.
Oh,
that was actually the first image I commissioned for the Legion. That was more as like a mission statement.
Okay.
I was trying to like I came up with 3 of them. And so we weren't sure who was going to draw it necessarily at that juncture. And so I went to Yasmin because I love Yasmin just in general for varying covers. And so often what I'll do with a series with, especially on a new book, is I'll generate a bunch of covers from a bunch of different artists really early in the process, so that I can get a sense of like, it's almost like a mood board of like what I think the franchise is. So when you look at these variants, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's my head. And then the book turns out to be what the book is.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a huge disconnect. Actually, you look at some of the series we worked on, like the variants all say one thing and then the book is this other thing. In this one, it's pretty consistent. But yeah, that image, literally the only thing I wanted to communicate, that this was a kid who was a fan of superheroes. And I wanted to like really try and humanize it and bring us there. So that was what that image was.
Yeah. For everybody listening, as Paul is referencing like his collection of books, if you follow him on Bluesky, he actually took a photo of the Legion section of the bookshelf, and you get a sense of what he's been reading. And I approve of all of those. They're all, not that it matters that I approve. I won't be mean and say, let's talk about Legion Lost for 10 minutes.
I find things I like about all of them. Yeah. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, no, And I think with Legion Lost, the comment is the art is stunning. I love what Pete Woods did on that, and it kind of gets me through everything else. But again, it's all everybody's opinion, right? And that's one of the fun parts of the Legion, right? Is you're going to have hopefully thousands and thousands and thousands of opinions. And it's like, how do we how do we stay true to our ideas and how do we stay true to our goals when somebody's going, that's not the Matter Eater lad I grew up with.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's not Matter Eater lad anymore. Or sorry, is that a spoiler that I shouldn't be ruining and that we can't comment on?
Actually, I haven't talked to either of them about that. It is Matter Eater lad, so far as I know. It
Okay.
did not last. I know there was a bit of confusion there, but all the characters have a little bit of an androgynous kind of feel to them, which I think that's a really nice touch, especially the twins, Garth and Ayla. The aesthetic of it feels slightly genderless in a way, which I think is kind of futuristic in and of itself, or at least contemporary in and of itself.
Yeah. Hayden, it's funny. Hayden's drawing, in some ways, reminded me of Colleen Duran
Sure. Yeah.
with regards to the Legion stuff specifically, because this is certainly a different style than what they're bringing for Wonder Woman, right? For Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I love Hayden's so much. We had a couple of close calls. We were going to work with each other. We weren't. And then there was a New York Comic Con where we got really close. And then ultimately Hayden wound up going on Absolute Wonder Woman. It's so great that they did. So yeah, I'm just really happy to be working with Hayden. You got some images on the screen here. For those of you who haven't seen, Hayden did these character portraits, which are awesome too. So that was the second thing we did. We did the Yasmin things first, and then with the understanding that they were temporary costumes, they weren't necessarily reflective of what Hayden was going to be drawing in the series. It was more of just like a feeling kind of thing. And then these were more, hey Hayden, what's your mission statement on each of these characters? And the easiest ones were Garth and Cosmic Boy. And the reason why is because with Garth, well, he's a POV character, but he's also aspirational. He's got that he's like that slightly Luke Skywalker-y kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And then Rock is more like a jock. And again, in the spirit of it being kids, we did a V Ken Marion cover that's like, I told him, just do like Friday Night Lights and let's see what that looks like. And then he's like, do they play football in space? I was like, well, I don't know, but like, just come up with something that feels like football, but Magnaball. Because I was like racking my brain. And whenever I have a question about this stuff, I go to Wade and I'm like, Wade, have we ever seen Magnaball on the page? He's like, well, let me tell you about Magnaball. Like, all right. But anyways, so those two were easy-ish to kind of crack. Especially the Yasmin ones you have up here now. And you see the trophies in the bedroom and stuff, and Magnaball and stuff. I think the smile in retrospect is maybe not quite the way we're playing Rock. But with Saturn Girl, there's one that was interesting for me because Saturn Girl, in my opinion, across a lot of the Legion stuff, has been a little flat, but in the same way that Jean Grey can read as flat. She's very even keel all the time. There seems to be like she seems kind of passive in stories, mostly, not always.
Overly controlled, like overly self-controlled, maybe?
Well, sure. Yeah. And so I was trying to get my head around what is she? If Garth is the dreamer and Rock is the jock, or the achiever who doesn't want the adoration, what is Imra? And so again, I asked Wade, and I was like, well, what do you think? I asked Wade and Josh the same question. I was like, what do you think? And Wade wound up going back to the sort of the studious nature of the character, and that's fine, but I felt like, is she just Hermione, or is there something else here? And that's when Josh unlocked it for me. Josh was like, well, yeah, the Hermione thing, I guess, is there, but it's more Jasmine from Aladdin. And I was like, she's the rich kid royalty who is insulated and desperately wants to be free, desperately wants to get out, desperately wants to touch the common people, not as some sort of act of tourism, but because it's been forbidden up to this point. And once I heard Jasmine, I was like, okay, I understand. All right, that's a good intro here, because there have been some iterations where she has been played a very definitive way, like not as Jasmine, like specifically like Josh, when he wrote the Absolute version of Saturn Girl, she reads as like Madeline Pryor. So she's very commanding. She's like in charge. She's the head of the situation, the leader. That didn't quite seem right for me for this one. And that's not where I see her elsewhere. She's a little like that in the Bendis one-ish, sort of. And then the Retro Brute has I guess a bit of that too at times. But Yeah. So anyway, when you see, so this Yasmin image is her sort of secluded in her bedroom, and you feel the isolation.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the headphones on, which helps block out the sound, which is a result of the psychic thing being, it can feel overwhelming. So obviously, some people on Titan would need to have some sort of protection, or at least some sort of, especially if they're not all the way comfortable hearing all those psychic thoughts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of that here. There's a cover that's coming up later. You'll see where we did one where she's got the bed sheets tied in knots and she's leaving the place. So
Like
that's
a bundle thing almost.
right. Yeah. So anyway, that was the Saturn Girl one.
It's great to get this behind the scenes sort of real sense of the thought behind the character. Because again, you probably have a bunch of Legion fans who are going, are they going to get these characters right? Are they going to get sort of what my image is? And when we understand, like, to put it in such easy to understand terms of like, this is Jasmine and this is the jock and this is the POV character. And you're like, okay, I can see where they're going with this and I can understand sort of what's happening. I wanted to ask, so when all of this started, I just want to go way, way back in the time machine, in the time bubble, so to speak. So I was listening to a podcast before and the person they were interviewing said that from start to issue 1 coming out, it's about a 9-month lead time. Like from the first proposal to whatever. Does that sound about right? Is it shorter? Is it longer? Or is it about like baby gestation period for this?
It depends on the book. I think that's about average.
Okay.
For like a regular book.
Yeah.
This isn't a regular book. For this one, the lead time was like 2 years. It was a really long time.
Was this Josh coming to you and saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this? Or was this DC saying, we have to bring the Legion back?
No, this was Josh.
Okay.
We were talking a lot about what he wanted. This is before Slott had come on to Unlimited, and we weren't all the way planned through on what was going to happen in the Superman books. And there was maybe a bit of uncertainty for a moment about what the future was going to look like, how things were going to play out. And Josh and I had a really nice conversation where we talked about, hey man, you've written so much DC. Like, what is left for you? What do you want? And he's like, I tell you, the only thing I want is Legion of Superheroes. That's the only thing. He's a really big fan. And at the time I went, oh, because I didn't know, I didn't know.
Is this even before KO?
Way before.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. This is, well, maybe not way before, but like, yeah, we were planning. It was post All In, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't. Yeah. So Josh was like, "No, I want to do Legion." And interestingly, there was a couple other people who were saying stuff like that, which I won't say for now because you never know what the future holds. I don't want to spoil anyone's announcement if it's 7 years from now, or whatever. But
right.
But yeah, no, this was Josh. And so I was like, okay, Josh and I have a close working relationship. I really like working with him. He lives out here in Portland, so we get together quite a bit.
I've come to find out that Portland apparently is this very big mecca of comic book creators.
Yeah, there's a lot of the aforementioned Fraction. Yeah, Kelly Sue Comic and Bendis. There's at least 2 Legion writers in the city limits.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, okay, let's do it. And so that's when I got to studying. When you were about to enter a franchise like this, it's important to know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had no idea what I knew and didn't know. I was at DC when the Bendis thing happened, but I was totally disconnected from it. Like, I think I read 1 or 2 at the time and was very disconnected. So I really didn't know much. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do something like that a disservice. So that's why I started to read all I did. I'm happy I did. It's turned into a favorite franchise for me. I love it. I really do.
Awesome. Well, it's funny that you said at the beginning, like it wasn't in your bones, right? But I'm getting the sense like, I'm sure you've realized now, like Legion fans, it's in their bones, it's in their DNA. Like I'm sure Josh is the same way, where he's just like, I love this, I want this to work. And there's probably no talking him out of it, right? Like I'm sure it was, how about this? And he's like, nope, Legion. And you're like, how about these guys? Nope, because it's just something about the characters. And I'm so glad we've got another, I don't want to say convert, that's going to sound bad, but it's another person who can understand and sort of appreciate. So I mean, a 2-year lead time is very impressive. I'm not going to ask anything about, because I really just want to focus on the artist that you chose, and I don't want to get into like, who else did you like? That's just a crazy conversation.
Yeah.
But like, I'll be honest, when I saw the announcement of Hayden, I thought this is the last person that I imagined. I was picturing, because Legion history is always you hire an artist who hasn't really done anything else, or you get somebody who's kind of unknown, and it's their training ground. It's the way they get it. And instead you hire, I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole to say one of the best. I mean, I read Absolute Wonder Woman, my brain just explodes at how good this book is. So is this you're pinching yourself? How did you get to that where you realize like, I've got them?
We had another thing we were talking about. Hayden and I were talking about another thing, and we were going to do a super thing. And that was San Diego last year. We were talking about that. And I forget the series of events exactly, but we were at Scott Snyder's New York Comic-Con soiree thing. And it was at this party, this really loud room full of comic people talking loudly. It's when it occurred to me, like, why wouldn't I ask this person to do this? And I'm certain Josh brought Hayden's name up at some point as well. I guess I was so sure Hayden wouldn't do, because Hayden seemed really dead set on this other super thing. So I was like, I don't know. And I don't know if they're going to say yes. And much to my surprise, they really considered it in that moment. And that's when I thought, aha, I'm not here to know. And so we continued to talk about it a little bit. You know, Hayden was like me, pretty fresh to the franchise. And one of the things I really appreciate about Legion art over the years is that it does feature some of the best artists in superhero comics at any given moment. You guys talk about the Grell stuff a lot. That stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. There's that one where who's that guy, Soldier? I was like, man, this thing, that issue blew me away. But not only is it Grell, and not only is it, Francis Manapul and Olivier Coipel and all these people, Ryan Sook. So I was like, why wouldn't it be Hayden? Why shouldn't it be Hayden? Yeah. And especially with the future thing. And that was the thing that really clinched it. I was like, well, if anyone can draw the future, it's this person, because if you're familiar with their work, they're very hyper detailed, and there's always something slightly askew. Feels a little otherworldly.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a perfect thing. Yeah, you have there's a splash page you're showing, or two-page spread of Metropolis with that cool Superman statue in the background, and the ticker that says that RJ Brand has been killed. And nice to know Big Belly Burger has lasted about 1,000 years.
And you have Levitz right over here, and all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, and this is the nice little chyron over here where it says, if you see somebody using superpowers, if you see something, say something.
Yeah. It's cool. So anyway, Hayden's the perfect choice. I'm so thrilled. I was champing at the bit to get to work with Hayden, and I'm lucky. I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, I know I felt, I don't want to say, trepidatious is too strong, but it was always that, like, please let this be a good choice. And then when these images started coming up, and you just go, okay, you almost want to say they're made to draw this book. There's so few writers who actually draw them as if they're teenagers, and check, like, that's covered. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that sort of androgynous nature. And then the costuming, the design, it feels like the future. And it's, I mean, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to feel sorry for whoever is the guest artist who takes over and fills in for an issue. The other thing I wanted to say is, what's going on at DC? This is now the second artist that we've talked about, because it was Dan Mora before, who's doing 2 books a month and is producing art like this. Like, how do you find these people? What's going on?
Pure luck.
Oh, wow. I'm
luck. Yeah. They're amazing. Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them. And they both have very different ways of managing that schedule. Yeah. With Dan, I've been working with him now for so long that I know, not to the minute, I'm not going to brag to the minute, but I know to the day or the time of day how many pages he can actually draw. Dan
Wow.
Mora. And so when I'm scheduling Dan, it is this sort of nutty professor flubber situation where I got the chalkboard and I'm scribbling on it and making, but it all comes together. It all comes together. And if there's one thing you can do, it's you could set your clock to Dan Mora. I pinch myself every single day. I get to work with that guy. And then with Hayden, it's very different. Hayden sends me their calendar and they're like, here's how I'm doing it. And you pick one of these spots and we'll figure it out and stuff. And so Hayden really manages it more themselves. It amounts to the same kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think it's awesome that there's this return to this like Jack Kirby style, get back to work, kid kind of thing going on. But there's two of them and they're at DC. So good. Great. Good for us.
So you're mentioning all the bits and pieces of planning that you have to do. And so obviously Hayden has their own calendar. Josh is off doing his thing. How far ahead do you have to plot this, not only for like such a big release like this, but even going forward?
Yeah, with this one, I got a little excited and I started commissioning variants up until like next year. So I've like the first 9 issues of cover because there's so many characters. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, wait till you see some of these Mad Reader Lad covers. I don't know when the issue 2 solicits are coming out. You got to see these things. They're awesome. They're so cool. So at a certain point after digesting all of this Legion, I was just like kid in a candy store. I'm like, let's go, baby. And so I started doing a lot. So with the issues themselves, yeah, Hayden is finished with number 2 right now, and Josh is working on finalizing 3. I just got Hayden's sketches for 3, the main cover, right before this call. So yeah, there's heavy planning there.
Nice. So you mentioned all the different variant covers, and I know you're not going to tell us which characters are showing up on there as much as, I'm like, for Jim, can you just say Shrinking Violet's going to show up somewhere and make his day?
I mean, I think Josh just kind of did a whole like dump of information on Twitter last month and basically told us, yeah, if you want somebody, they're going to be there at some point.
Yeah, because he loves them. He loves all the casts. Yeah.
Now, since you've gone into your deep dive and you've learned about all this, aside from the Trinity, which we talked about before, was there somebody, and you don't have to name who the person was, I'm not going to get you to reveal anything. Was there a character that you said that maybe Josh was like, and you were like, no, we need to have this person? Or are you more like, I'm going to let Josh kind of drive the bus here?
Josh and I have wound up being on the same page, which is helpful. Just like in a marriage, a creative partnership really works when you're at least on the same page, So we haven't had too much of that. Josh cackles from time to time because he'll notice, he calls them Legion crushes. Everybody's got their little Legion crush, the ones they like.
For sure.
For me, early on, it was Projectra. I really liked the idea of Projectra. And so I kept bringing up Projectra in conversations. After a while, he's like, just stop, man. Like, it's fine. Like, she'll be in it, but just stop suggesting it's Projectra for everything. And then I really gravitated toward Wildfire a lot, and Timberwolf. I love those 2 characters a lot. Actually, Josh and I have not had a direct conversation about Wildfire yet, but we're bound to. Yeah. So no, we haven't had any of that, any like disagreements or anything. He's a really big reboot head, so you're going to probably see a lot of that.
Yeah, he mentioned XS and Gates and a few characters like that online. And something he said that was kind of interesting, and maybe you can shine a little bit of light on it, because somebody had mentioned Kinetics, and I was like, that's cool. And he's basically said, well, I used her in the Superman book last year, but eventually want to get to her.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to ask is, obviously characters like Projectra, like Kinetics, are more mythical in nature and not necessarily, quote unquote sci-fi, right? Is that part of the reason that they're going with that? Is that meaning that we're really taking a sci-fi centered experience, at least in the initial part of the book here?
That's a good question. I hadn't really considered it, to be honest. To me, the sci-fi elements of Legion tend to still have some kind of scientific explanation. It's a franchise that does feel more to me like Star Trek than Star Wars in that way.
For sure. Yep. Yeah.
So there are bound to be those kinds of mystical elements simply because they're cooked into the franchise as well.
Mhm.
Although I don't think of them as the unknown. I think of them as it's been 1,000 years. These things are known to some degree. And also, admittedly, Magic Cast is not always, it doesn't always click with me. I've tried. We did an event a couple of years ago called Lazarus Planet, which was an attempt really to kind of get my head around the Magic Cast a bit. But they're not my first instincts, I must say. So no, I don't know about that. But no, they've all got some kind of science basis, right? I mean, even the precogs, it feels more like a
Maybe psionic power kind of thing.
yeah, or like they're seeing, because time is time's a flat circle, man. But yeah, like time's a thing like anything else, and so it's less about like who I'm mystically seeing into the future, and more like our species has developed a way for us to see it in this different way. And as we know, depending on where you're facing in the universe, you're either facing the extreme past or the extreme future. Anyway.
Yep.
In preparation for this, I've also been reading a lot of Isaac Asimov because I had never read Asimov before. Obviously, was familiar with the stuff everybody is,
Like
but
Foundation or
well, yeah. So I read. I didn't even know there was an Apple show when I started reading that, but I was reading them. Funnily, I was reading them because the two book titles that I picked for the store are mentioned in a Ringo Starr song, and I was like, "What are the odds of that?" So I read Caves of Steel and Stars Like Dust, and I was just smitten with his take on stuff and the detail, the scientific detail, little minute explanations for things. It was awesome, like
Sure.
especially in Stars Like Dust, where he places such a cool emphasis on how hard it is to find stuff in space.
Yeah.
You know, unless you have an exact coordinate, you're basically looking for a grain of sand in the ocean.
Oh,
So the idea that you would happen upon a planet is next to impossible, actually.
Right.
At least one you intended on finding.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where my headspace is more than
That's interesting. No, I mean
magic.
that's actually very insightful because there's lots of mentalist and dare I say magical concepts in a lot of Asimov's work. So
Sure.
yeah, sure, why
Sure.
not?
This image here you have here, this Viken Marion image with him on the lightning cycle.
Yeah, I love this. I love this concept, dude. Oh my god,
This was the second image we created for the and it speaks to the other major influence on this, which is Kelvin. So you see a young lightning lad riding on this cycle, very free, looking quasi-rebellious, maybe a little older than we wound up designing. But Hayden had turned in the designs at this point, and as soon as I got those, and I was like, Josh, you're telling me there's a lightning cycle? What?
Yeah,
And this actually was is an earlier design for it. This design you're seeing here doesn't actually show up in the book. This was Hayden's earlier thing, but I got so excited when I saw Hayden's concept sketch for it. I sent it off to Viken immediately, and I was like, "Do that!"
yeah. And so this is, I guess, is what you're talking about here.
Yeah, look, and variant covers, they're not always what appears in the book. Again, they're more like a mood board thing, but this is the one from the interiors.
No, the concept is so cool. I just love it.
It's so cool. Yeah, that's all Josh and Hayden designed it, but all.
Right.
The idea was Josh. We're having a lot of fun on this. I hope that's coming through. Like, we really are having fun on this book.
Well, so we're going to be experiencing this in a couple weeks. One of the things that I'm very curious about is obviously we're telling the story of this group of teens getting together and starting this movement. So we're going to be in some greenfield territory for a while. Is this designed to be going to be all new stuff, at least as far as you can tell, based on what you've seen from a planning perspective? Is there any intent to go back and retell classic stories, like involving like the Emerald Eye or the Great Darkness Saga or something like that? I mean, these are things that are very seminal, and you can't really redo them. But are there going to be any callbacks to anything like this?
Well, I can't say definitively we'll never do that.
Yeah.
What I will say is I'm not terribly interested in doing that.
Okay.
The reason why is like you just said, like redoing them feels, I don't know, feels like we feel we have to or something. You have a future of possibility with this franchise. I think when last we spoke, I had mentioned talking to Levitz about it, And Levitz is like, my one piece of advice is this is the future. You can do anything.
Yeah.
Kill a character, blow up a planet. Who cares? Have fun. Like this is, you don't have to worry about where's Wonder Woman going to fight next month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of the things I most admired about the Bendis issues, which is I kind of liked. In fact, I realized that we had the same instinct with the planet Earth. Kind of liked that he retained the Earth post-explosion look and then filled the oceans in. I thought that was a fun moment because, like, yeah, all right, we can do that. Sure, it's the future. So anyway, I'm not looking to go back and do stuff, but it's not to say we won't maybe touch on some stuff.
Yeah.
I really like the Miracle Machine, so I'd love to see that pop up at some point. But yeah.
So we see the tech here with the lightning cycle. Is travel between worlds? Are we going to see spaceships, or are we going to see teleporters? Is it all of the above, or something different?
Yeah. Well, I think the overall, without getting into those specific details, the overall thing is it should feel lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of Blade Runner-y in that way. Not necessarily sort of junky or anything like Blade Runner, where everything looks slightly rusted or anything. But the hope is, especially given Hayden's art, was to have it feel as lived in as possible. And then we'd be introducing some of the Legion hallmark tech items via Brainiac, 1 of 5. So yeah, I don't know. I can't speak too much to like ships and stuff. Although, as you were mentioned in your tech episode, I would love a model of some of those ships. And
yeah, I know.
So it'd be great. Yeah. I'd love more Legion toys, frankly. It's really hard to find Legion toys. There are some out there. There's a whole
mainly the old McDonald's ones from like 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I had those last time we were here, right?
Oh, there you go. There he is.
Right where I can get at them.
Yeah.
Timberwolf's weird design here. Look at him. There he is.
I was going to say, because you did mention Brainiac 1 of 5, and I want to ask this question with the expectation that your answer is going to be, I can't answer that. But is that 5 Brainiacs, or can you give us anything?
I think Josh would be terribly cross with me if I went into
That's what I figured. But I knew if I didn't ask, everybody listening would go, why didn't you ask this question?
Well, yeah. I will say, like I mentioned Kelvin, right? These are fresh coat of paint on timeless characters to me.
Yeah.
That's what I like. It's what I think worked about Kelvin. You know, not everything I think worked about Kelvin, but it's what I think worked about it. It's the mission statement behind World's Finest. Really, that's a fresh coat of paint on timeless concepts. So we're not looking to reinvent any wheels, but they are going to have different aesthetic based on story. And that is also in line with Kelvin. There's story reasons for why they're different here. One of the things in science fiction that bugs me sometimes is when things are rebooted and they're different for the sake of it, which, you know, I get the instinct to do that. But as a, you know, I said earlier, Legion wasn't in my bones for a long time. Certainly comic books are.
Yeah.
And as a card carrying nerd, like I am obsessed with the idea of it's all gotta make sense.
Yeah.
It's all gotta. And so there is a reason behind why things are the way they are in this book and why they're different.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's little glimpses, right? I mean, I think we looked at the picture of Metropolis before. There was the this picture here. I'm assuming is taking place on Winaf, where Garth is chasing after somebody. But we have this one image. We see like there's these 3 strips of background, and I'm surmising these are different planets, right? So it sounds like we're going to be seeing lots of different environments as part of this, where these characters are going to be coming from. So
sounds like it.
I'm really excited to be on this train. So.
I want to visit these places. We're gonna, yeah. It's all this stuff's important, man. I want to go get to know these characters first. It's why if you're going into this expecting 1,000 characters immediately, like really, one of the things we're trying to do is focus as much as possible and build it out, so you really get to care about this cast. I think it lives or dies by the cast.
Mm-hmm. Can't agree more. Well, so speaking of the characters, do we have any new ones? Any Legionnaire that we haven't seen yet?
No, there's one on here, but I can't say which one.
I imagine it's Robin. Oh, it can't be Robin. I'm sorry.
It isn't Robin, no, but that is that. Who is that? Huh?
I thought Robin was always a Legionnaire.
There is a new character on here. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, the plot thickens.
All right, so now for all the eagle-eyed fans, we can start placing bets. Like, okay, who is the person? Who is the person? So I'm going to switch from heroes for a second. And again, are we getting the old villains? I mean, obviously we're getting mech'd because we've seen that character. And it kind of looks like if there is a Fatal Five, it'll be a very different Fatal Five. But is Josh sort of putting, as you said a few times, putting a fresh coat of paint on the villains? And are we going to see our favorites coming back? Are we seeing something different? Again, I don't want you to give names because I don't want to get spoiled. I don't want anything to get spoiled.
I get it.
But
there'll be, I'll say this, there'll be some surprises. There'll be some people that you wouldn't be expecting appearing in certain roles in the book. For those of you who picked up the Superman Year 1000 special, you will notice a familiar looking villain on the last page that you certainly know and recognize. And that person will be, playing a role. And then there'll be some surprises along the way for other Legion villains. I think you noted that is a Persuader axe when you were talking about the announcement. I'm not sure how much I can give away about that, but the Persuaders will play a major villainous role in the book. I think that's in the solicit copy. So
yes.
And then there'll be lots of different ones. It's going to be a little less like, and now Mordru shows up, a little less like that villain of the week. It's more telling one story where lots of characters will filter in and out, but there's like a driver to it. Again, and this is an accident because Josh and I hadn't talked about Asimov, but Asimov. Oh my God, I combined his names. That's a good Legion character name. But in those books, Asimov books, it tends to be like a detective usually, or somebody, POV character trying to figure something out. And you'll notice that Brainiac and Matter Eater Lad seem to be doing that. And so there will be an element of that. And again, think Kelvin when it comes to how things are introduced. They play a role in the story. There'll be a reason for it.
And at the end of the day, the old school Legion fans are definitely going to follow the journey, even as it's breadcrumbs coming out. We've all proven between 5 years later and everything else, you can throw a bunch of different stuff. And if we can get the new readers who are just as excited, then it's perfect for what we want, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the new readers don't have favorites yet. And the returning fans have favorites. I now have my favorites. I have my Legion crushes. I have villain crushes too. 5 years later made me a big Roxas head. I love that character. I was like, wow, he's like the Joker in the future. And he's a psycho. This is crazy. So yeah, we all have our preferences. We want to make sure we're celebrating this franchise in every way possible. I cannot guarantee you or tell you that it's going to be exactly the way you either like it or remember it. But I hope you enjoy it and come along on the ride.
Well, it's been very funny since this announcement came out. I mean, Jim wrote a column about this, basically saying this doesn't have to be your Legion. This doesn't have to be how your favorite is, but it's these characters. And I've seen a few people online say the same thing. And at the end of the day, I make no bones about who my favorites are. And I know it's not going to be the same character, right? It doesn't matter who it is. For all our favorites, it's not going to be the Wildfire that I was reading when I was 14 years old, because that's just impossible. But if it's Wildfire and the character is right and it's well written and I have a good story, that's what I want. It's not the same Superman as when I was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with the John Byrne, and that's not who Superman is anymore. But they're still good. They're still compelling. And the character gets a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
Same with Supergirl. I mean, that's a character who I think when I was reading, I read her death and then saw her come back as a blob, right? The white Matrix character. And it's just give me good stories. At the end of the day, that's kind of what we're looking for. There's my rant. And no pressure, but just
well, I say this. I think that there's a difference between changes being arbitrary or respectful or informed, maybe is a better word. So it is not our intent to drastically alter characters. What we tried to do with this, and it's one of the reasons why I tried to read so much, is because I wanted to understand where these characters had been, to get a sense of what I liked about them, what I didn't, or what I felt was the nucleus of why they work to begin with.
Yeah.
So we really did take some pains with the founders, as I mentioned earlier, to kind of grapple with who are they? Like, really, let's look at the history and try and get a sense of who are they and how can we take that core of what's there and not change it, but look at it from an angle that is maybe a bit more relatable.
Mhm.
So no, we're not looking to, it's not going to be the kind of thing where Mech is sweet now. He's like cool, Mr. Cool Guy. Like, it's not like that. It's more like, we're trying to update it through a modern
Mhm.
lens.
Yeah, modernize.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the big parts of Legion, it's comic book, so we want the action. Big tradition in Legion is the soap opera. So I imagine, obviously, in the first few issues, where this is going to be much more action oriented. So I guess I have kind of two related questions. Are we going to see the same kind of relationships that we've had in the past? And are we going to see any very specifically called out LGBT relationships within the Legion?
With the second one, very likely. Very likely. I'm not sure we're that is going to necessarily be a focus right away, but I think it's the future, and in the future, people will have at least this is the Roddenberry. The future, people will have mellowed out of it and learn to accept each other for what they are.
Yeah, well, I guess there's two pieces of that, right? Yeah, I mean, on one thing, it just should be an attribute of the character. It shouldn't be a focus, right, of a story or anything like that. It's just part of them. But the other thing too is that I guess from the reader's perspective, especially younger readers today, obviously they want to see representation in the pages too.
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, that's another thing I thought the Bendis thing got right, which was more or less some of the characters are like, why would only two people be in a relationship? Like, some of the characters would simply not have that perspective. I'm not sure we're going to be hanging quite a big hat on that out the gate, but it's certainly going to be cooked into the DNA of the thing,
Yeah.
And
the characters have to get to know each other before they start, hanging out and going on dates and things like that.
Yeah, so the romance with the romance, I will say that one of the things I realized I didn't like was that Saturn girl, like Jean Grey, is often portrayed as just whoever is chasing her or dating her in that moment, and so there's not that with her right away, at least. I'm certain we'll get to who they wind up dating and stuff, but that amongst the founders anyway, there's not a lot of that right out the gate. In fact, that was the thing we were talking about on Bluesky, Jim. We were talking about
the Legionnaires.
We were talking about Legionnaires. I was trying to make Jay spit out his drink. I was like, what? Legionnaire. But there's things I wound up really liking about that weird book.
Yeah.
And I love that everyone's just jumping each other's bones 24/7 in that thing. It's so bizarre. I was like reading that going, not that I'm like reading it for that, but I was reading that going, wow, they went nuts in the night. Wow. But the thing I liked least about Legionnaires was how awful Garth was.
Yeah.
And how possessive he was. And how, it was like this weird extension of AC Slater, like macho, like, it was all like, I don't know, it really turned me off about that character. I was like, is that who Garth is?
That's a common experience, I think, that everybody has. And when Tom Bierbaum actually has a blog and he kind of talks about the choices that he made there, but he and Mary made. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but I still didn't like the character.
I mean, this is not me throwing shade. It's just me saying, like, that is one of the things that I didn't really relate to with Garth, but yeah, talk about a book thick in soap opera.
Yeah.
There's that Adam Hughes issue where they all go underwater and start wearing seashells and stuff. And I was like reading that in public, and I was like, I think I have to put this away. I don't want anyone to see this.
That's when your kids come in right on the racy scene on the television. No, stop.
Yeah, it was. I had a ball though. There was things I loved about it. In fact, Legionnaires, for all, I get it. Listen, Jay, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. All right. We're here. Okay. I understand. However,
I feel seen.
There are things that I enjoyed about it. And maybe it was particularly when you're reading in the omnibus, they're situated next to what are otherwise very sort of dour regular Legion book stories. So for me as a reader, they popped because somebody's excited to be there. Whoa! I became invested along with them. I was bemused and bewildered often, but I really wound up enjoying that book.
I often wonder with 5 years later and with Legionnaires and with all of that run is if you're reading it in an omnibus, it's just a completely different experience than waiting monthly for it.
Oh yeah.
Because I've talked to people about this, and yeah, like when you're reading issue after issue after issue of Legionnaires, or especially like I think 5 years later reads very differently if you're not waiting 30 days to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just it's kind of an interesting take, because I've gone back and you're like, okay, they're all 15, so this makes sense, but they're all 15, so what the crap is like, and it's just this really weird sort of mix on that. And then it's like you just said, like here's this really depressing dour episode where all these people in their like mid to late 30s are going through this horrible situation, and then you get to the next book and it's teenagers and everything's bright and smiley, and it's this like, what's going on here? But it does pop out a little bit more. Whereas I think if you just read like the 12 Legionnaires issues without, you just kind of go like, well, it's like you say, like, why is Garth so horrible? Why is Inferno so horrible?
Yeah.
Like, did they know that they made the villainous sympathetic? So as a reader, I'm actually hoping the Emerald Empress defeats the team. Like, do they like it's like, what were they thinking there?
Look, I think it was a big swing. It was at a crossroads for that franchise. Certainly, I wound up having a great admiration and respect for what was attempted there, and I could say that about almost all of what I read. There were a couple not Legionnaires issues, but over the course of reading this thing that felt like work at times, but overall they actually didn't feel like work to me. There was a couple that popped that I wasn't really expecting. I talked about this when I was last year. It was in some of the Retroboot stuff, but later in the Retroboot, it was the Levitts and I think Yildiray. It was Yildiray Sinar. There was some stuff there where what was some more like where Titan blew up and stuff. Like I liked that.
Yeah.
I was reading those issues like, yeah, this is cool. This is giving me all the same vibe of the 80s one. And so I messaged Brian. I was like, you must have been in heaven doing this. And he's like, yeah, I was. Brian Cunningham, the editor of those. So, yeah.
Let me turn over to Superman real quick, because he's obviously a big part of what we're going to be seeing here as part of the 1000 annual.
This guy?
Yeah, that guy. No, actually not the blue one, but yeah.
Yes, blue Superman. Yes, the lightning one.
From what we know in the book, right, he's going into the future, making sure that the Darkseid Legion is kind of gotten out of the way. When we saw him last in the Legion of Darkseid storyline in Superman, all these people that he knew, all these Legionnaires were decimated on the ground. And he's now in a position of setting things right from a future's perspective. Is he going to remember the original Legion that he grew up with? Or are these people going to take the place in his head?
You're asking if we are unnerfing folks.
Yes.
So this is, for those of you who have read Superman Year 1000, addressed in that issue. And we are not ignoring or erasing any, in fact, of the legions that came before. And those other legions will play a role in things over time.
Interesting.
Not right away. The thing that we do not want right now is a continuity festival.
Yeah. Thank you.
But what you liked, your favorites, are still going to be a part of the story. And that's the way I think I can answer that. For those of you who read Superman Year 1000, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And that will be paid off.
Excellent.
But yeah, no, we're not looking to obliterate any of your faves.
And this includes, might I add, the Legion of Darkseid.
Yeah. So, to give the non-spoiler version, think of time and space as a body, a human body. And what Darkseid did to come over here was to basically go throughout that body and infect, give sort of cancerous tumors to all different parts of that body. He went in and messed with history, messed with space and time, and attempted to obliterate it. Didn't obliterate all of it at first. And basically what you have at the end of that is a space and time like a body riddled with cancer. And Superman at the end of KO is imbued with all this power, all this energy, and then he pieces out. And we don't really know where he went. Superman Year 1000 addresses where he went. He went to go and use this power not to remake the universe, not to reboot the universe, not to say we need to start over. This is too confusing. He went in to undo the damage that Darkseid did. He went in to give space and time cosmic chemotherapy. And he targeted each of those areas that Darkseid destroyed and went to try and undo it piece by piece until the energy that he had was gone. And it came between he can either get home or use the last bit of it to save your least favorite Legion character. And he chose to save your least favorite Legion character rather than get home. Because he's Superman, damn it.
That's right.
So what you're saying is 5 years from now, when the Legion is one of the best-selling books that DC is publishing, we will have a Legion of 8 worlds, big, huge crossover.
Well,
to keep with tradition, Phil Jimenez has to draw it, so it's going to have that George Perez feel.
You know, he was my professor in college.
No way.
No
Phil
way.
Jimenez, yeah.
How about that?
So,
yeah.
Well, Jay, I wanted to mention, so you're tagging on something that's been in my head since Paul started going down this path, or the path that I kind of forced Paul down. But anyway, so, and this gets back to the new history of the DC universe. So in that book, and I noted that when that the final edition came out, and it addresses the Legion, and it said very specifically, I mean, it talks about there's the specific Legion versions that were there, but its definition was a multiversal team of heroes that, go on to, save the day and whatnot.
That language, not specifically, but yes, this was planned. This was thought out. I'll look again, like Kelvin. Did they lose Admiral Kirk? No, they didn't lose Admiral Kirk. Did they lose all these people? No, there was a divergence. There was something that changed. And so this is very much that. The thing that I felt personally would be inappropriate would be to say to somebody, even if I didn't like it, that what you read didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you hated it. you spent time and presumably money, hopefully money, reading it. And I think there is a respect that goes along with that. And not everyone agrees with that particular, and I'm saying it obviously in an extremely sympathetic way, but for myself. But I really do, as a fan, I appreciate that. I really don't like just forgetting about something forever and or saying it didn't happen. It's like, no, I spent time
all there,
and it just doesn't mean you have to dwell on it, right? It doesn't mean you have to live there. But I always point to Welcome Back Frank. When he's hanging that guy over the building at the front of the Punisher, Welcome Back Frank, and he's an inner monologue caption, and he says, I was an angel hunting demons for a while, and woo, that was wild. Anyway, I'm going to kill this guy right now. But at the very least, he was like, that happened.
Yeah.
That happened, and it mattered. It's the thing that I like the most about the Hickman X-Men, is that he included them all in a way that felt kind of logical and respectful. Even the mutants you might not like. Yeah, it felt respectful. So that's the goal here.
Yeah, Hickman has a tendency to do that with the stuff that he lands on, I think.
I admire it.
Yeah. The other part of it as well, and this is another thing I've learned from the years of doing the podcast and the reviews, is almost every version of the Legion has many fans. And to sit there and say like, oh, just because I don't like this, we're not going to do it. And you're almost discounting that person's taste. And you go, well, like, look, there's that comment of like, if you tell me your favorite comics, I can tell you when you started reading. Because it's like, okay, what was your favorite comic when you were 15? That's kind of when you get into this, right?
Right.
And not to be rude, but 15-year-olds don't exactly have the best taste in stuff. And I say that with a 16-year-old son. So like, yeah, I look back and there's movies that I love that I'm the first to admit, is this the best movie ever? Nope, but I love it. And if you were to treat it like it was garbage, I'd be really pissed. I never want to discount somebody and say, you're wrong. I just want to say, I have a different opinion.
Yeah,
Right?
I remember
And that's
that back in '94 when Zero Hour happened, there were a lot of people who were, Legion fans who were pulling their hair out saying, "Oh my God, you've killed everything I've loved for the last 20 years," and therefore would not pick up the new the new books or the new version. I think if you're a fan, you need to give it a try, and at least give it a try, just to say, okay, I love it, or no, this isn't my cup of tea, and then move on, right? And then go back to reading whatever I liked from 20 years ago, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, go buy the trade.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
or
get the
wait for the
trade that
trade,
you
yeah.
loved, right? And you, I mean, the books don't disappear, right? They're
Right.
still there.
Yeah.
And, this is a move into 2026. Like, this isn't the Legion of 1984, right? So, it can't be. You can't just do what they did in 1984 again. And I think it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I think both creators have earned a level of, like, they're both producing amazing work that buys them a little bit of, I don't want to say grace, like, give them a shot, like, give the book a shot, give it a try. I mean, if every book looks like the pages we've seen, this is beautiful, right? It could be a better version. Like, it's like whenever I hear people talk about, like Jackie the Snake and they all hate it. And I go, but on the other side, she was one of the best written characters of Reboot. Like, I get you hated the version of her, but they actually handled her really well. And I've had Legion fans come at me for saying that. So it's just what it is. So yeah. I know we're getting close on time. So I have one question just to further build anticipation, which is this. Can you give us some names of some of the cover artists that are coming, like for some of the variants? I mean, we've seen the variant covers so far, and wow. Are there any other names that we have coming down the pipe that we should be excited by?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I can spoil too much of that. I will say, I could talk a little bit about it, but there's a Jim Lee cover that was that's going on issue 1 that was not revealed at the time of solicitation, which is forthcoming. Jim is a huge Legion fan. I keep an Excel sheet of my Legion reading list where I write little cliff notes to myself. Who is the writer, who is the artist, what issue number, what year, importantly, which era, and then a couple like little scribbles of plot or whatever, whatever important happened to it. And Jim, I've shared that with Jim, and we've had some nice conversations about it. He's a big Legion head, so I'm really, that cover is gonna kick ass. I saw progress just yesterday, actually.
Awesome. Is that the foil?
I saw his name on the solicit, so I'm like, ooh,
yep.
We haven't seen that one yet. So
I don't know if that's the foil or not. It might be, but and then I'm really excited about the Michael J. Fox one. That was really funny. That came out first. Everybody's like, "Man, Dan Moore's drawing the Legion, and who's that? Who's that guy? Like, who's that?" Yeah. So we do these. These started in World's Finest, where we do these celebrity cameo covers, which is primarily my excuse to be like, "Man, I love William Shatner. Let's get on a cover." So we did Paul McCartney, William Shatner, Nicolas Cage, who else? Stephen Colbert, forgetting him, Jack White, a bunch of cool ones. And so for certain series launches, I try and get a celebrity cover lined up. So for Superman Unlimited, we did James Gunn. And then for Legion, we thought, well, there's some kind of time travel thing here, I think. So it was Michael J. Fox. And he's been really cool and really easy, actually, to work with.
Excellent.
Sometimes the celebrities have notes. Michael J. Fox is just like, I think this is cool. And I was like, well, actually, I think we should change this, this, and this. He's like, whatever. I think this is cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, that one I'm really excited about. I love that.
Yeah,
one.
in fact, I remember that one was the one that leaked, I guess, a day early, and everybody was like, "Oh, are those the actual costumes of the Legionnaire?"
You may not necessarily recognize his name, Alex Ekman Lawn. He's an amazing artist. He's done just a lot of great covers. Don't sleep on his Matter Eater Lad covers. When you see these things, you'll know, like when the solicit comes out, you'll know what I mean. You'll be like, oh, that's why he liked this. And not to say that I wouldn't like it normally, but like when you look at these things, you'd be like, wow. So those are the ones I would not sleep on. I'll say that.
Okay. Excellent.
Cool.
More reason for me to go into my comic book shop, so that's good.
Okay, perfect. So issue 1 hits September 2nd. Yes?
Yes.
I'm on Alex's webpage right now just going, wow. So, okay.
I love his covers. He did some Dead Man covers that are just breathtakingly beautiful. Yes, September 2nd. And if I may, could I talk to the readers a moment, Jim and Jay.
Go for it.
So listen, everybody. Hi, it's Paul. It's Paul here. I'm just a guy sitting in his living room with a Legion ring on and an Ultra Boy shirt, letting you know that there's this thing called final order cutoff. What final order cutoff is comic shops have to guess what you want to read. Isn't that a wacky system we've got? Insane. Comics shops, your local comic shop, the owner or whoever is doing the ordering has to guess what their customers are going to read. There is a deadline by which time those people have to guess that number and order it. And guess what? Those shops are dependent on knowing their customer base. They just are. It is a strange system. It is the one we have. Okay? You want to change anything? Vote, I guess. I don't know. The FOC date, final order cutoff for Legion of Superheroes #1 is August 10th. So if you are a Legion fan and are feeling as though you want to see Legion comics, the time to do it, obviously, is to show up and buy it, right? But the time to do it, especially, is to make sure your comic shop knows you are interested in this by August 10th. So, that is not to say you can't do things after August 10th. If you're listening to this in the future and you're like, biscuits, I missed that date. It's okay. It's okay. I forgive you. It's all right because you can still buy it, right? And there's these lovely things called reprints, which has been happening more and more at DC lately, and It's crazy. So there's still time, obviously, whenever you want to get and show your appreciation. If you are feeling so inclined, I know comics are expensive. I get it. Believe me, I get it. If you are the kind of person who's got, $4.99 in their pocket and they want to spend it on Legion, let your comic shop know that you're interested. That doesn't mean you have to go there or like call them or like call your congressman or like write an email. Like just all you have to do is just mention like, oh man, can't wait for that new Legion book. Hey, can you put me down for one of those? Put in my pull list. That's all you got to do when you're there buying your, I don't know what you're reading these days. You're buying your Turtles comics, whatever you're doing.
Manga.
You're buying whatever. You're buying your expensive resin statues. I don't know what you're into, and that's fine. I'm not yucking any yums over here. Just make sure you let them know that you are interested in Legion. August 10th is the final order cutoff. Thank you. This has been your PSA from PK. Enjoy.
Thank you for coming to Paul's TED Talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. August 10th
is the FOC date.
All right. Want to make sure we get that date loud and clear out for everybody. Yeah, get into your comic shop before that date and make sure they know. The sooner the better. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up this special edition. Again, can't thank you enough, Paul, for joining us again. I just want to say you're not the only one with the Legion ring. So
you got a nicer one than I do, my guy.
Yeah, I got the original
have one. But Jay's doesn't work, so there's at least that.
That's it. Well, not without a broken bone or two.
Mine came with the toy.
All right. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Normally, I would say, Paul, tell us something to hype up, but we've already hyped everything up.
Wait a minute. I can give one other shout out. Two other shout outs. Tamar Bonvillain is the colorist on this. Tamara is an incredible colorist. She brings the heat every single month on Just League Unlimited with on top of Dan Mora. If you're looking for better color, I mean, you could be searching for a long time and never find somebody as good as Tamara. So we're very lucky to have Tamara. And then Haas on letters. Haas is one of the most amazing letterers in comics working today. He's always up for Eisners and awards and everything. Haas lettered KO. There's so much personality in the lettering. He's one of the only letterers I work with, who really at the start sends me like 5 or 6 different, like, I was thinking like this, but could it be more like that? Like really puts a lot of care, a lot of thought, a lot of specialized care and thought into how the characters are talking on the page. So we spared no expense, in the words of John Hammond. Like this is actually, that's a bad metaphor because everybody died on that island. But but you get what I mean. We're like putting the best on here. We're throwing our best at this thing because we're not trying to phone this in. We're trying to do the Legion justice. I wanted to shout out Associate Editor Chris Rosa, who is the one turning the gears on this thing. And Chris used to be a retailer himself. He worked at Meltdown in LA for a long time, and he comes from Boom Studios too. And Chris is amazing. So want to shout out Chris Rosa as well. So that's the team bringing you Legion of Superheroes, and I promise you this, we care perhaps too much about this.
Well, I, for one, cannot wait to begin the journey. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, very excited. Very
All
excited.
Right.
So,
what are you guys reading? Don't you end with what you're reading? I want to hear what you're reading.
So I am working my way through Black Science from Image right now.
That's from Ender? Right? Remender, right?
Yeah, Remender, just beautiful. I'm like halfway through and I'm doing a search for trades now, which is
Nice.
never fun, but well worth picking up.
That's great.
It's a good one.
One of these is kind of a retread, right? I've been gushing about the Absolute Green Lantern for a couple of months now because I really, it's one of those books where I picked up. I'm just like, give me the next one, and so I really like it. But I'm also kind of gotten in from the All In stuff. The new Barbara Gordon Breakout book. I'm having a good time with that. I really like it a lot. So.
And speaking of Tamar, she colors that, and it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been reading that as well, and I actually, as soon as I knew she was coloring the Legion, I started paying a little more attention to what she. I'm like, okay, I gotta check, and it's a beautiful looking book.
Yeah,
that's another good one.
Yeah, Rob edits that one. Barbara Gordon Breakout is awesome. Mariko, I had a long working relationship with. We did Detective together. We did Wonder Woman together. I'm such a huge Mariko fan. Mariko Tamaki should write everything. And yeah, that book kicks ass. And Amankai is great too, who does the art on that.
Yep.
Wonderful.
And then TV shows, I'm watching Silo. The new Silo series just popped. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Silo.
Yes. It's based on the book series. So, yeah.
I am watching Taskmaster.
Oh, yes. Taskmaster is good. I love Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you watch Game Changer as well?
I have not watched that one. I just discovered Taskmaster. So I'm going through the Jason Mantzoukas season right now, which is just chaos and anarchy. And it's.
My brother's really into that show and showed it to me. Yeah. It's wild.
Today I learned something new.
There you go. All right. So there's only one more thing to do. Since this is a special, we're not gonna talk about where they can find us. Let's just kind of wrap this up. So the last thing with the Long Live the Legion podcast is we close everything up. We didn't open up the mission monitor board, but we end the way we always end. Long live the legions.
Long live the legions. All the legions.
Long live the legions. 1 of 5.
Yeah.
All right. See you, everybody.
Long live the Legion.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.